I'd like to welcome everybody to the November 23rd, 2021 Giles County School Board meeting. Call it to at this time. Everybody will stand. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
That motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? At this point, we'll entertain public comments. Give the podium to folks that have taken the time to come here in person. The only one I have on the list is Mr. Aiden Williams.
You want me to come to the?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I'm glad to be here with this long list of public comment tonight. So I'm here in my official capacity as a citizen of Giles County, but also I'm taking an education law class this semester in law school. And part of the requirement is that I come speak to in front of a school board, so I thought I'd come home and speak to y'all on an issue that is very important, and it's not masks and it's not CRT. So Article 15, or Article 1, Section 15 of the Virginia Constitution requires the General Assembly to provide for a system of free public schools for all school-age children throughout the Commonwealth, but it stops short, of course, of requiring any sort of equitable school funding arrangement across divisions. So back in 1994, the Supreme Court of Virginia held that while K-12 public education is a fundamental right, it is only aspirational that the legislature establish a high-quality educational program. Basically, the court punted to the General Assembly and said, you can do what you wish, so long as you're providing some sort of free public schools. And while the legislature accounts for each locality's composite index, as you know, in its funding formula, many funding categories like capital outlay are left out of the state share mix altogether, as you also know. So therefore, you have school divisions like Lee County that spend around $12,000 per pupil, while affluent divisions like Falls Church spend over $20,000 per student. Some divisions can afford, of course, luxurious school buildings and programs, while others can barely afford to replace leaky roofs on their 80-year-old facilities. And many of the recession-era funding cuts from the state continue to hurt rural divisions more than the wealthier localities. Therefore, for the past two General Assembly sessions, Senator Bill Stanley has proposed constitutional amendments that would require the state legislature to fund equal or equitable educational opportunities for all students, regardless of their zip code. So the children born in Southwest Virginia and urban areas can receive the same education as those in the wealthy suburbs like those in Northern Virginia. And while Senator Stanley has been successful in earning bipartisan support for the amendment in the state Senate, the progressives in Northern Virginia in the House of Delegates have killed the proposal for 2 straight years. I've spoken to Senator Stanley about his amendment. We expect that he will file the amendment again in this year's General Assembly session. So with that in mind, today I'm asking this board to consider passing a resolution in support of the equitable K-12 school funding amendment once it is filed. I'll be happy to keep you informed of its position as it moves through. The new constitutional language would benefit rural divisions like Giles County Public Schools by establishing new legal authority that finally would require the General Assembly to recognize and act upon the enormous funding disparities among school divisions across our Commonwealth. So that's all I have for you. I'll keep you up to date as the amendment moves around, but we've seen it be a big benefit in other states when their language in their constitution is right. Sometimes the state Supreme Courts will actually act and force the General Assembly to, or force the legislature to do something. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any comments from the board?
You raise a great point. Please keep us informed on that. But I remember from my time in North Carolina, when I was in law school and living down there, I think they've got the right constitutional language because the Supreme Court did some things a few times.
Yeah.
But that's the only way it's going to change.
And I don't know, you said it appropriately, the challenge we have is the progressive folks. When we went to Richmond to try to get to hear some folks about that very thing, and at that time we were trying to attack it through changing the actual formula and how it kind of broad brush strokes from west to east, and the northern and eastern school districts always benefited more. But the folks that were representing us said, how do you expect those folks in those positions to vote for something that is going to take money away from them? So it's like a vicious circle of, unless somebody in the north and east gets a real heart for the kids that aren't getting equal representation here, they're gonna keep doing what their constituents want them to do. So.
I mean, it's curious that the Senate moved on it in a very bipartisan way. So hopefully you can get some of these House members into some of these schools that have roofs that are falling in and open their eyes as well. We hope.
We just need to have a program where all our, like our K through 4 kids write a request with their little handwriting, little picture. It's directly to those people on voting day and see if they have a heart at all. So,
Doubtful.
yeah. Vice chairs. Okay. Thank you, Aiden, for coming back and for doing what you're doing. I got 2 more that were sent in. One from Kenzie Hamilton. Dear school board members, I'm writing to talk about removing masks for Giles County Public Schools. As of November 19, 2021, there were only 11 COVID cases in Giles County Public Schools, 2 students at Macy and Clarity, 1 staff member at Macy and Clarity, 1 student at Narrows Elementary Middle, 3 students at Giles, 2 students at Narrows, and 1 student at Giles Tech Center. The vaccine has been approved by the FDA for ages 5 through 11. We are in phase 2 now, although the COVID-19 cases in Giles County Public Schools are back where they were when we were in phase 1. So why aren't we back in phase 1 and not have to wear masks and have an exemption? With respect, Kenzie Hamilton. The next and final from Hannah Monday. Dear Giles County School Board members, I'm writing this email to you all to try to persuade you to give students and staff a choice of whether they want to wear masks or not. As of Friday, November 19th, there were only 11 total COVID-19 cases in Giles County Public Schools. 2 students at Macy, 1 staff member at Macy, 1 student at Narrows Elementary, 3 students at Giles High, 1 staff member at Giles High, 2 students at Narrows High, and 1 student at Giles Tech Center. The vaccine has recently been approved for ages 5 through 11. All students and staff are now eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. According to the Health Department statistics for Giles County, cases peaked back in September. As of November 19th, 2021, the 7-day average for new cases in Giles County was 3. The last time cases were this low was mid-August, before school started on August 23rd. Giles County Public Schools opened under phase 1, which we could have a mask exemption. Now the cases are back down to where they were then. Why can't we move back from phase 2 to phase 1? Here are some reasons why I don't like wearing a mask Monday through Friday for 6 hours. I can't breathe in a mask. I have trouble concentrating on my schoolwork. I have trouble understanding my teachers and peers when they're talking. I can't see their smiles or facial expressions. I get sore behind my ears from having to wear a mask 30 hours a week. When I wear a mask, it makes me hot. I'm asking you to please consider moving back to phase 1 and letting us have a medical or religious exemption again, or even just letting our parents decide. Thank you for your time. Respectfully, Hannah Monday. That is all the public comments that we received for this meeting. As always, we acted as extension of the public and the constituents that we represent, so please, if you don't let us know what your concerns are, it's hard for us to do anything to change. Next item on the agenda is approval of the consent items by single board vote, which includes meeting minutes from the regular September 23rd meeting, financial data including bills, payroll, October 2021 revenue, October 2021 expenditure report, and December 2021 appropriation requests. I need a motion to approve the consent items.
Make a motion to approve the consent items.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Mr. Chairman, if we need to go back, if it's all right with you and the board, we need to have a public hearing on, or a public session on the 22-23 school budget.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So, go ahead and open public comments for the 2022-2023 budget.
I guess I can make a comment that we have gone, board members and myself and Amanda have gone around to each school site, met with bus drivers, cafeteria, GEA to hear concerns and recommendations for the upcoming budget for the upcoming school year. So all those will be taken into consideration as best as possible.
Yeah, for anybody that is listening that doesn't understand that budget process, as Dr. Arbogast mentioned, we take a great deal of time collecting information from every school, from every department, to try to understand the best that we can what each group needs to provide the best educational opportunity to our kids. And we boil all those down to one big large request, and then we work internally here to try to figure out how many of those requests we can actually fulfill. And I can speak on the entire board, that's probably the most challenging and difficult thing that we do as board members, because we hear heartfelt and very well put together requests that we know are needed. And then we have to figure out which one of those we're not gonna provide. And that's probably the worst job we have as a board. So bear with us and know that we're gonna spend an enormous amount of time trying to figure out the best place to put the few dollars that we have. And as that continues to process, then we'll put together what we think is our best shot, and then we go to the board of supervisors and we see if they can come to the plate with twice as much as they have, and do the best we can to team with them to have the best budget possible. So that'll be happening over the next several months. Any other comments during the public comment period? Okay, we'll close the public comment period. Thank you, Dr. Irwin.
Yes, sir. Thank you. If it's all right with the board, I'm going to kind of go into the educational feature. We have Giles High School here with us this evening to present the educational feature. Ms. Bogus is here, so I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Bogus and let her share who's here with her and let them share information that they put together for the board this evening. Ms. Bogus?
Brittany Johnson is here tonight. She is basically the head of our SAT team at Giles High School, and she's going to explain how the SAT team works with the tier discipline, how we do the child studies, the new child studies, which are no longer child studies, but how we kind of deviate services to our kids prior to actual discipline.
Do you have?
Brittany?
Does everybody have a copy of one of these? Everybody get one?
Just want to make sure.
I don't think I gave you one, I apologize. I think most of you know me, but Ms. Vargas said my name is Brittany Johnson. So back over the summer, Ms. Vargas contacted me and she said, hey, Brittany, would you like to help with our SAT program? And I didn't realize what I was getting into, but I said yes, and I'm glad to be doing it. But over the summer, Ms. Vargas got a hold of me, and we met together along with several other teachers and started to sit down and kind of go over this whole SAT idea. And of course, this has been around for a couple of years, but we are just now getting to where we're implementing it and getting the ball rolling. Ms. Mustang gave us a series of different paperwork to go through, and we started looking and seeing how we're going to structure our tier program. So really, what is SAT? SAT is a program designed to help students be successful, and that covers a large area of things. So anybody can do a referral for SAT. This could be parent-driven, teacher-driven, administration or guidance, and even student-driven. And we can see students for several different reasons. We can see them for behavioral issues, academic issues, maybe even a wellness check saying, hey, how are you doing today? And we can just start building a rapport with these kids and see, really what makes them tick and what can we do to make them be successful. So to start out, one of the things that we want to do at the beginning of the school year is we want to make sure teachers at Giles High School felt comfortable with transitioning to this program. And the first thing that I want to commend Ms. Bogus on is she brought in Amy Dean. And for those of you that don't know who this lady is, she was fantastic. All Giles High School teachers went and did a workshop with Amy Dean, and she's known as the behavioral queen. And it kind of gave us a new life to behavior and discipline within the school system. And the biggest thing that hit with me personally was consistency. As a teacher, especially in secondary, we expect kids to know our expectations without telling them our expectations, right? We say this is how you're supposed to act, but we just expect them to do it. Well, and after 18 months of being out of the school system, we really have to take a step back and re-educate these kids on how they're supposed to be in the school system, right? And the consistency across the board. So a couple of things we wanted to make sure to do was that teachers were comfortable with this discipline transition. Okay, and I say it's a discipline transition, it's really just building a rapport with these kids and developing a system that works to make them successful. So the first thing that we did is we got together and said, hey, what do we need to do as far as tiers? How are we going to design this? And we bounced around a couple of different ideas. We said, do we want to do it by grade level? Do we want to do it by category? How do we want to structure this? And so taking the stuff from Ms. Mustang, taking the stuff from Ms. Bogus, Mr. Widows kind of designed a little idea for us to do it, breaking it up into tiers. And so tier 1, and you have this packet with you because I want to make sure you guys had a copy. You can shuffle through this and see different things. Each tier addresses academic, behavior, and wellness. Okay, so we cover all areas, but it kind of steps up. Okay, it's a tiered system where tier 1 pretty much sees everybody. Tier 2 is a little bit more in depth. Tier 3 is, we've transitioned this since the beginning of the school year to be more of a reintegration. So if a kid gets OSS and ISS, we meet with them when they return and say, how can we prevent this? What can we do to make you successful now? We've made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Let's fix it and let's move on. And we provide them with opportunities. So tier 3 on that paperwork has kind of changed since the beginning, but this is what we started with. And then we wanted to make it a little more fluid for teachers. In the world that we live in with technology, we wanted to make it a quick, easy click of the button for teachers to be able to have. Now, in the classroom, they have their steps that they have to go through. And that's per teacher. Everybody has their own sort of setup what's going on. And so we went through and we made this quick referral, and teachers have access to this. We've got it set up on their desktop. They just click this open, and they go through and they tell us some information about little Johnny. They go through and they tell us the grade level, they tell us their name, they tell us why they're being referred. But the biggest thing down here I want to point out is what interventions have we already put in place? Because I'll be honest with you, teachers put in interventions and it's never documented, right? They do these things automatically because they're awesome people and they already have it put in place, they're doing it, but it sometimes gets lost in communication. This gives them an opportunity to say, hey, I've called mom 3 times and it's still going on, or little Johnny's doing this and I can't get him to fix it. And, providing us with what they're already doing so we can kind of build from there. So then in the classroom, we decided collectively as Giles High School that we are going to make a discipline guideline. And every teacher, again, this is sort of implemented in their own way and how they choose to do it. But we kind of have a 1, 2, 3 system. So every day kids gets a reset because some days we all have bad days, right? So we need that opportunity to learn and grow and move on. So at Giles High School, in the classroom, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to get a nonverbal. And this could be, a tap on the desk. Some teachers use these little flip cards. They have a color code system. There's tons of ways that teachers do it, and it's personal preference. Tier 2 is a verbal warning, and Tier 3 is a reflection form. And this actually came from Amy Dean, where it's kind of putting it back in the student's hands. They're going to go through and do a reflection form. Why am I in trouble? What did I do to get here? How do we fix it? And they do this maybe one day in that class period. Next day they come in, the same thing happens. They get 3 reflection forms. We can also do an apology form, depending on what the situation might be. And this can be given to, say they called another student a name. They could be given to that other student depending on the situation and what's going on. Again, this is situational. And once they get their 3, then they go through the SAT process. Now, once they come into the SAT process, everybody goes through Tier 1, at least initially, and then we build from there as to what is needed. So Tier 1 is what I'm going to focus on today as to what we're going through. So on a typical day, a typical week, we have Mondays as our planning and prep day. And it is a group of 4 teachers for Tier 1. We have 2 teachers for Tier 2, is that right? And then 2 teachers for Tier 3, along with administration and counselors for the other 2. Okay, so but Tier 1 is 4 teachers. And we meet on Mondays, we get our prep work together. This is seeing what referrals we have, why they have those referrals, what might we do as an intervention process, kind of collaborating and figuring out what's going on. Maybe spend that time talking to the teacher to say, hey, what's little Johnny doing in the classroom and what's going on, get some back information. And then put together a plan and scheduling. And then Tuesday through Thursday, we're going to meet with these students. They get a little slip in the mornings, and Amy Wheeler, beginning of the school year, I said, hey, we need some slips because we started doing like a call system to get them to come down. And a student was like, Ms. Johnson, I thought I was in big trouble. I didn't like that. And so, we went through and made revisions because starting out, we didn't know what was going to happen. So we went through and made some revisions. Amy Wheeler made these little slips. Mr. Weddle actually goes around in the mornings and he disperses these to the students. Other students don't know where they're going, why they're going there. It's no one's business, right? This is their personal information. They get this little slip and they'll report to the back of the library. We have a little confidential room that's just for the SAT team and that student. We'll meet with the students. Typically it's about 15 minutes. So Giles, where we're on periods, we can on average meet with 3 to 4 students. 5 if we're pushing it, 2 is a good day, okay? So the meetings, we could probably do meetings all day long and still not have enough time in the day. But we're making it work. And then Fridays, we make parent contact because that is a huge part of the SAT process is that parent contact and logging the information. Because a lot of times what happens on the administrator end, the form says little Johnny did X, Y, and Z 10 times already. I've already given him warnings. Well, then you call home and mom had no idea it happened. Because teachers get so busy in the day, they can't find the time to, make that quick phone call to say, hey, little Johnny did X, Y, and Z. So us taking that load a little bit helps in that way. Parents stay informed, okay? It's their right to know what's going on with their kid, right? So keeping them up to date on this stuff, even if it's not discipline driven, we want them to know that we care about their kid and that we want them to do well in school. So this is kind of the daily routine. So as of today, we are on day 62 and we have had 98 referrals. Those 98 referrals are duplicates for some students, for a total of 67 students at this current time. We have had today, up to today, 74 meetings. We have scheduled 110. We are scheduling out into January at this point because, we're meeting with kids every 3-4 weeks. You'll see in some of our case studies in a minute how our meetings work. But right now, we are only serving 9.8%. And I don't know, I talked to Randy a little bit, and I feel like we're working nonstop. And the fact that that number was only 9.8% is crazy to me because we are doing so much work. I feel like it's crazy to think that we would be doing so much more. I would like to be doing 50, 80, 100% of our students, but we're only using 10%. Imagine if we had the ability to service more. We're working really hard on trying to make this happen.
Brittany, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
I think I know the answer to this. You're probably seeing kids that probably are having problems at home, probably having bad problems at home, that are, you're almost like, I ain't gonna say you're a counselor, but they're probably saying things to you, an outlet to you, and you're probably helping those kids. And you're probably referring those if you need to.
Yes.
But I know when I was in the school and worked with Shelley many times, where we had problems, and I love this, I do, I see a great benefit. And I love the communication aspect of it, where everybody knows what everybody's doing because they can see it, because a lot of times the teachers didn't know the kids wasn't eating or was kicked out of the house that day. And Shelley and I said, well, the teachers have no idea, and they're acting up in class,
Yeah.
Well, and I love that aspect, and you're helping that.
It's
And
bridging a gap.
bridging the gap. Thanks for putting words in my mouth. Tomorrow, but I've got it. But, and I see you're giving so many them a chance to succeed, and I love that. And, how many of those kids are you seeing like that? Of those kids that, of 5 or 6 that are really in need, of those services? Is there a great abundance of that?
There is. A lot of it is driven, like transportation has been a big issue. Just kids, getting to school, and there's a lot of ins and outs of that. And we have done several NRBCS referrals. I have one case study in here that we're going to look at in just a minute, and a perfect example of that. We are seeing those, and typically the first meeting that we have, kids are really backward because you're talking to 4 grown adults, some of them you've never met before, and so they're really reserved.
Right.
But we tell them, hey, we're going to meet back in a couple weeks. We're going to see how you're doing and make sure everything's going okay. And we pull them back in. It's like that second time we meet them, they're like, okay, I'm good. And then they start talking, and we get to learn who these kids really are. Because I'm a teacher, and content is what drives us, but relationships are so important.
And they're seeing that you care, and they know, and you're probably stopping something that will get worse, and I love that, so I'll shut up.
Thank you. All
I
right,
think you're
so
supposed to say at the beginning, would you please hold all your questions till the end of my presentation?
I like it. I tell my kids to interrupt me all the time. All right, so I've got 3 different case studies that we're going to look at, one for academic, one for behavioral, and one for a wellness check. This is just a blanket overview of kind of what SAP really does. So student A is a student that was referred by a parent and actually 2 teachers. So we had 3 referrals on this one student. And mom called and said, hey, I think we want to get this student tested. And I said, whoa, we got to back up. We don't do child studies the way that we used to do child studies. Child studies is actually not a term that we use anymore. And we're going to take a step back. We're going to see how this student is doing. We want to just see what the school year is going to start out like. You know, this student might actually do well. We'll keep you posted. Let us look into it, and we'll get back to you. Well, it wasn't a couple of days later, a couple of teachers sent in referrals on that form that I showed you a little bit ago and said that this student does not do well with written and oral language. They're struggling. So we wanted to pull them and meet with them. Met with the student, brought them in and said, hey, what's going on? And the student voiced some concerns. We pulled up their grades. The student is failing all core subjects, 60s or below across the board. And so as part of SAP, what we do is we're goal driven. We want to set short-term goals for long-term effect. So we meet with the student and we say, what are some goals that we can set? This is not us saying, this is what you're going to do. We allow that student to say what they should do. Okay, so the student said, hey, can I use read aloud? This might be helpful to me. We walk them through what that means, and we said we can try to put that in place. We collaborate with their teachers, say, can you please provide read aloud, and see kind of what happens. We also talked to the student about using a planner and teaching them how to use a planner because students don't know how to use a planner. And then we talked to them how to navigate online learning because even though we are in the school building, kids are still using their Chromebooks and they're still accessing Canvas. They're still accessing Google Classroom. They're still doing these online things, and learning how to do that effectively was a struggle for the student. So as part of SAT, we went through, we got them a planner, we showed them how to use that planner, and we communicated with the students' teachers on making sure that they were given read aloud during the duration. We told the student we would meet back with them in 3 weeks and see how their grades are doing, and if they needed anything to reach out to us beforehand. So we contacted mom, told mom about the situation and what we discussed in our meeting. Mom was very appreciative, and we told her we'd keep her informed on the situation, how everything was improving. Well, I met with the student 3 weeks later, and lo and behold, all classes but one improved. Everything was above a 60 except for one, which is spectacular. That in 3 weeks, a kid went from failing everything to failing one. And so we set some additional goals. We said we are going to make sure your classroom behavior is where it's supposed to be. The students started acting up a little bit. We talked to the teachers to see kind of where the student's at. They said, well, the student's not really dedicating the time that they need to in the class. They're not utilizing class time like they need to. So we discussed what's appropriate, what's inappropriate behaviors. And then we also talked about self-advocating, because the student said, I don't ask for help. Well, you've got to ask for help because teachers aren't mind readers. So we talked about that process and how it's going to work. And then we discussed with the student the addition of a basic skills. And those of you that don't know what basic skills is a place for students to get an additional support in the classroom. So they go to one specific class to get resources and additional help. So following that meeting, we decided we were going to do a request of an educational report for those students. And I took some information from Ms. Mustang, from Ms. Radford, from Ms. Bogus, and I compiled this form and asked each core area teacher to fill this out and provide us with an observation. This kind of gives us a more formal evaluation of what the student's doing at that time. So then we take that information, we meet again in 3 weeks. At our third meeting with this student, we see that the student is still struggling in English, and we take that educational report and we say, we're going to move you into a basic skills course and we're going to see how you're doing. At this point in the process, we decided to go ahead and file and submit everything to Ms. Morris for an evaluation for special education services. This is the new form of a child study. Okay, so this was done before. We're just putting new terms with it and documenting it in a slightly different way. So now we've already met with this student 3 times. We've made parent contact 3 times, and we have filed the paperwork to move forward with a possible evaluation. And at this point, we're waiting on that documentation. So this is just one student and one situation to provide us with some information. The next thing we've got is a behavior intervention plan. Okay, so student B, this was actually a student referral and a guidance referral. And student B was suspected of possible bullying. Student B, in the conversation we had in our referral with another student, was that the student is demonstrating mean behaviors, picking on other students, essentially not being kind. So because of the severity of the situation, we decided to go ahead and pull in administration, pull in guidance, and along with our staff members. And we met with this student and we opened the floor and we said, do any of your behaviors merit mean actions? Like, are they perceived as being mean? And it's crazy these students start talking to us because they've already established this rapport and they're comfortable, and we tell them you're not in trouble when you're here. This is a way to learn. This is where you're supposed to grow and become a better person. So this student openly admitted and said, you know, maybe some of my actions aren't really nice. Maybe I'm just picking, I'm just playing, it's not a big deal, he's my buddy. But we talked about, you know, what's appropriate and what's not appropriate conversations. And we developed a plan with this student on how to become a better individual. And so we set some goals for the student. We said, try to be a good friend. You know, friend people that may not necessarily be your normal peer group. You know, branch out a little bit and evaluate your current friendships, because if you have a friend that's being mean, we need to work on that and hold them accountable. And then Ms. Bogus actually put together this group called Choose Kindness, and they meet every Wednesday. And this group, what they do is, you know, they might just give somebody a little note that says, hey, I hope you have a great day. You're doing a great job, keep it up. And you never know, that little note might go a long way and hold a lot of merit for some of these kids. Or they might, you know, make sure somebody has laundry detergent. Or they might make sure, like, because these kids know. These kids know who's in need. These kids know who's hurting. These kids really know. As adults, sometimes we're oblivious, but these kids really do. They know. So Ms. Bogus started this group, but it is student-driven, and we said, hey, you would be great in this program because it's going to help you grow, but it's also going to help your peers. And you're going to become a leader and help you become successful. We made parent contact. Mom had no idea what was going on and filled her in. And Mom's like, thank you for talking to me, because now I can talk to my child and move forward from here. So a couple weeks later, we met with the student again to see how things are going. And this is my biggest success story. I love this story. Do you know that this student went and apologized to the other student and thanked us for taking the time and really showing them what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. And they really have grown. They're thriving in this program that Ms. Bogus started. And we have actually released the student. We told them we would check in with them periodically. But for the most part, the student's doing great things. Lastly, we have student C. And this was a wellness check. And at the beginning of the school year, I would tell you, I don't know on the elementary level because I'm not there. But on the secondary level, we had a lot of growing pains. Kids getting used to being back in the classroom 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. It was a lot of growing pains along with the social pains. These kids forgot how to socially interact with each other a lot. So one kid in particular, they just were overwhelmed. They could not handle the day-to-day grind of being back in school. A teacher messaged me and said, this student needs you. So actually in that moment, I got coverage and I went and found the student. And the student and I sat and had a conversation. And lo and behold, the student just needed somebody to talk to. They were just overwhelmed. So we went through the paperwork in that moment. So we did a little bit of an intervention in that moment. And we did it in our BCS referral. And the student now sees NRBCS every week for additional support. We made our parent contact. Mom was very appreciative that we were able to intervene when we did. And we met with the student again, and the student was very happy being with the NRBCS counselors, and they're doing well in school, and everything is back on track, and they've made that adjustment now. So on a day-to-day basis, we do pretty much anything. We collaborate with our staff. with administration within our BCS. We make parent contact, of course, our student meetings. The incident logs take an eternity, but they're going okay. We do educational reports for these students, and we provide student support. This week, I have been researching culinary art programs because we have a student that wants to become a chef and has no idea where to start. So that's been my job this week, has been researching programs for them to get into so we can find a motivator. This student needs to know what GPA they need to do to get into that program, and we're gonna use that as our motivator to make sure they're doing well in school. Now, this student doesn't like school. So I'm trying to find a way, collectively, we're all trying to find a way to get this kid motivated to be successful. Being a chef is what they wanna do. So we're gonna figure it out and make it successful for them. Last thing I've got before questions, I want to take a minute to thank several people because this is not me. This is a large collective group of people. Ms. Bogus, of course, got this ball rolling with Mr. Widows. She brought in Amy Dean. Some of this stuff did come from her. Of course, Dr. Arbogast, Ms. Mustang. Ms. Mustang met with me last week just to calm my nerves and my jitters a little bit. Amy Wheeler for helping us out with all the slips and things that we needed. Jessica Morris for answering my 87,000 questions that I have about this new process with special education. And last but not least, our GHS staff, because we have worked so hard on this program and it has so much still to go. We've only covered 10% of our students. I want to get where we're covering 80, 90, 100% of our students because I want everyone to be successful. But our GHS staff, I pull them for remediation. I'm like, hey, little Johnny needs help with some math remediation. Can we take your free time to work with them? And I've not had a single one of them ever not figure it out. They'll say, hey, I'm busy, but I'll figure it out. Because they're fantastic people that I work with. Our aides have went over and beyond on making sure each kid is taken care of, special ed or not. They have done fantastic. And of course, you all for putting up with me this evening and providing us with support. What questions do you have?
Well, thank you. What do you need from us to make this program grow?
You want me to answer that?
Yes, that's why I asked it.
In my personal opinion, and I've talked to Ms. Bogus about this, I think staff needs to be a full-time position at each facility. In my opinion, because I could do this all day, every day, and we'd still be busy every single day. Honestly, this is a program that I think needs to be funded because it is, in my opinion, it's shown to be successful. And we've just started. We're only covering 10%. Imagine if we were covering 80, 90, 100. So I think and I know we were talking about budgets earlier, I think that would be a great opportunity to maybe work that into the school systems.
Mark, that was part of my budget proposal for Giles,
Well, both facilities, I certainly.
I mean, I can only speak to Giles, but 100% we could keep a SAC coordinator busy all day, every day.
Well, when,
All day, every day.
well, I see it, and I see it probably different from most other board members here. I don't know much about anything, but I do a little bit about this. I see that you're cutting a lot of trouble off before it starts, in the school system that I've been in and seen. And that will help so much, being there, having the contact with the parents especially, communicating with them means a lot. Communicating with the teachers and the students would mean so much, and I know, these board members will see that also, but being in the school and being in, on the front line and hearing all that, I know what it means to, have that, and I see the success in this program probably more so than anybody will. And I'll do everything I can to make it a full-time, if all possible, how do y'all feel?
Well, we're trying to go to a very proactive approach to behavior, academics, attendance, all that, instead of a reactive approach. So we're trying to do everything that we can prior to it becoming a truancy or a class failure or a behavior issue. And we're doing that by getting in the front of it. So
You know, you're gonna get the ones that either wanna come to school or not come to school. But the ones in the middle, we can save those,
Yeah, okay.
you know. I don't know how you all feel.
It's awesome. These guys are doing great. Great.
Any of you that want to answer, do we know if the same program is being implemented at Narrows or any of the elementary schools, or is this kind of the?
I do know, and just want to say, we can talk on this a little more, I do know every school is starting it, I don't know in what detail. Do you care?
They all of the schools have SAT in place. It just looks a little different at each school because each school is different. Giles looks one way. Nares is doing a fantastic job. Nares High School is doing a fantastic job as well. Theirs looks a little different, but you have a group of individuals there. Suzanne Woodward, Kelly Hill, I think, she's on the team. They're doing a great job. Theirs looks just a little different, but they're doing the same things. At the elementary schools, it takes on a little different look too, because you have to go through the SAT program in order to, if a teacher feels like you're going to qualify for special education, you have to go through the SAT process, and you have to have these modifications and accommodations in the classroom and all these interventions, and if they are failing, then we're going to recommend you for special education, because Giles County, not just Giles County, a lot of divisions over-identify children for special education, and if we can find these interventions within the classroom, then we're not going to be over-identifying. So we're taking, kids through the SAT team. And I just want to mention, Brittany, Randy, all the teachers are doing this, and they teach full-time. Yeah. And they're also full-time teachers, and doing a fabulous job with that too. But this is something, when I spoke to Dr. Argas, that at the very least, a SAT coordinator needs to be funded, at these schools, because, these children, particularly at the high school, and Giles High School is doing without a counselor. They're one counselor down. So the SAT team is also taking on that extra work as well. So, it's a big job, but, when I was at the high school, I loved the SAT team because it's what you're there for, to help these children. Shelley's a counselor, and so it's a big piece of her heart as well. So, but it's, all schools are doing it. I guess that was a long answer, but all schools are doing it just a little different. But you do need this in order to get a child some special education services as well.
Norm, you were saying, what are some other requests? Something that is needed with this program is the resource time. Like, if I were to pull Katie to ask her to remediate with 4 or 5 kids, she needs that in her schedule to figure that out, how to make that work. And we are running our assistants all over the building, and part of that is my fault, because Mr. Weddle's fault, because we're like, hey, we need you to work with this kid. And those people, because they're so kind-hearted, they will never say no to a kid. They will always help them, always be there to support them, and we physically just don't have the time. Now, I don't know how we fix that, and I don't know what I'm really requesting, but I somehow come up with resources to provide teachers or assistants that opportunity to work with those students that are not deemed special ed and that just need additional support. Because we have it in the schedule to help certain kids that already have the paperwork, but if we're asking them to provide these modifications or accommodations to those students, when do we do it, right? And how do these teachers make that successful in the classroom for those individuals along with the rest of their caseload? So that's something else to consider. How can we make it a little more fluid to provide that coverage?
I dealt with so much truancy when I was in school. It's like banging your head against the wall. And there's some that you're not going to fix. But there's maybe a few kids, there's a reason there's truancy.
Mm-hmm.
There's truancy because maybe they was uncomfortable being in schools, but they didn't have that help, the one-on-one, Maybe this can help with that. if that's the case, man, that would be so beneficial.
We've actually already worked with a couple of kids with truancy and
Man,
resolved those issues.
if
Had we
that-
not had this-
If that helps their numbers with
Yeah.
truancy, goodness.
But any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you. Very nice job.
Do you need me to put this back on the other?
Yeah, you're fine. That's fine. Thank you. This time I need to ask the board to approve some personnel items. First, I need to ask the board to confirm the following volunteer agreement. Chris Collins, Giles High School Athletics for the 21-22 school year.
You make a motion? Mark?
Yes.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Need to ask the board to confirm the following employment. Transfer of Barbara Quisenberry from Mason McClarty Teacher Assistant to Narrows Elementary Middle School Teacher Assistant, effective November 10th. Kiara Lewis, Mason McClarty Teacher Assistant, effective November 1st. Amber Reed, Narrows High School Teacher Assistant, effective November 8th. And transfer of Austin Cooper from Giles High School Special Ed Teacher to Giles High School PE Teacher.
Make that motion for the transfer.
I'll second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Need to ask the board to confirm the following athletic coaching contracts. Jim Mahaney, Giles High School head swim coach, and Austin Cooper, Giles High School varsity boys basketball.
I'll make a motion to approve those.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Need to ask the board to confirm the following retirements. Tammy Hall, Mason McClarty Teacher Assistant, effective January 1st, 2022, and Kathy Purdue, Mason McClarty Teacher Assistant, effective January 1st, 2022.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Need to ask the board to approve the substitute teacher list that you have been provided to date.
Make a motion, we approve the substitute list.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Every time we approve this list, I feel like we're just approving a list, we still aren't hitting the mark. But I don't know what the answer is. I mean, the budget, we're talking about rates and how we're compensating all these folks, plus bus drivers. I guess that's their next best chance to improve that list. You know, whenever I talk to principals, teachers covering for each other, so it's killing them. So it's not the time for this super large conversation. Not that I have anybody in this room with an opinion over there, but I guess, we'll approve it, but I don't know how we can help in the middle of the year.
It's gonna be challenging to, I don't know what else we can do to get more people.
And it's the same in every business.
It's not just us.
Trying to find somebody to do anything right now, unfortunately.
It's not just us.
Okay,
$22 an hour at Bojangles and Lithell, Judge Harrell said the other day.
Oh, I'm gonna go for that.
That's what I said, it's getting close for me too, but I'll sling some chicken.
that job is not available to Giles County citizens. Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Need to ask the board to approve and accept the bid from Hooten Equipment for services specified. That should be an IFB number 18-2021. That's school for 2 dishwashers and 2 disposers for Narrows High School, one for Narrows High School in Macy, And that school nutrition funds will be covering the cost for those items. We did receive bids from 4 entities, and however, one of them did not meet the bid specifications.
Maybe we approve that contract.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
You were provided a copy of a scholarship for us to be able to offer to seniors at the high schools as the Virginia War Memorial. So at this time, I would ask that the board approve that scholarship so it can be offered.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Need to ask the board to approve the policies that you were provided. The revisions were made to it. Bring it up, I can tell you the policy. Wait. And that's policy. It's working on it. It's coming.
JFCB-R.
Thank you. Just JFCB-R, just trying to get it to load there, yeah. So, ask the board to approve the changes to that policy regulation at this time.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? So I see that change, including one word change and whenever possible at the end of the last bullet. Is that what was that of the SBA?
No, that's, if you read that the way it is currently written, you would not be able to offer some of the athletic teams that are currently being offered because of the way it's written.
Understood.
Swimming.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
I have other items to ask the board to approve, or you want me to wait till it comes back to me for my turn? It's up to
I have a
y'all.
problem with you.
I'll roll.
Roll right
I'm
through.
gonna keep on going along then until you tell me to stop. I need to ask, you were provided the October 21st minutes as well. I need to ask the board to approve the October 21st minutes from our October 21st board meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
As you know, we've talked about the VISTA grant for COVID testing and that sort of thing there. I need to ask the board to approve the employment using those grant funding for Morgan Stevens, COVID-19 clinical support, effective December 1st, and Tanya Patterson, COVID-19 coordinator, effective December 13th. So that's Morgan Stevens, effective December 1st, and Tanya Patterson, effective December 13th.
I'll make a motion to approve those.
I'll second.
Motion and second.
Has to use those grant funds until they're no longer available.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
I need to ask the board to approve the following athletic coaching contracts. Josh Sparks, Narrows High School Boys Golf. Teresa Lowe, Narrows High School Football Cheer. Abby Taylor, Narrows High School JV Football Cheer Coach. Teresa Lowe, Narrows High School Basketball Cheer Coach. Josh Sparks, Narrows High School Scholastic Bowl Coach. Henry Buchanan, Narrows High School head soccer. Caitlin Devers, Narrows High School girls tennis. Chris Helvey, Narrows High School head boys baseball. Emily Buckland, Narrows High School assistant soccer. And Josh Sparks, Narrows High School boys tennis.
I'm going to abstain from any discussion or voting on this matter.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Just an update on enrollment. As of yesterday, Monday, November 22nd, our enrollment was as follows. We had 2,155 students attending in person, 26 students that are full-time virtual that are in county, are our students. So we have 2,181 in-county students total. Unfortunately, that's 5 down from October 31st and 30 down from the beginning of the year. We also have 1,287 students that are non-residential students participating through STRIDE, the virtual program. So we have a total of 3,468 students at the current time. A couple other items to update you. We have had conversations with administrators about school, the band, choir, activities, concerts. We checked with the health department, and schools will be working on scheduling activities during the school day for different band concerts, choir concerts, etc. However, they'll look a little different than what they have in the past. It won't be necessarily the whole student body there. We'll probably split up into separate so that we don't have as many individuals attending at one time, and we will have to continue with the masks and that sort of stuff while we're there, and performers as well. So they're going to work through that process as well. STEMposium, also looking to try to schedule that in the spring. Hopefully try to schedule it for a day and evening when it can be done outside, so activities can be done outside with students and community members attending. So just wanted to give you an update and let you know that those things are being looked at and worked on. Congratulations to our high school athletic teams for their successes. Narrows High School volleyball state quarterfinal, went to the state quarterfinals, football regional quarterfinals. Cross country had 2 students. Jamie Wall finished 13th at the state meet, and Ian Spade 24th at the state meet. Giles High School volleyball went to the regional quarterfinals and football regional semifinals. And I'll apologize if I've got any of this incorrect, but I've tried to. But congratulations to all of them. Congratulations to the Narrows High School Theater Group. They were Regency champs and also came in 3rd at the Super Regional that was held. Congratulations to Coach Lowe, who picked up his 100th career victory earlier in November. So congratulations to him. Congratulations to Coach Rusty Kelly. Giles High School dedicated the track in his honor. So congratulations to him and his recognition for his accomplishments. Couple dates for you to keep in mind. GEA has scheduled a meeting here. It'll be here in the board office on December 6th. We will be meeting with Delegate-elect Ballard that afternoon at 4:30. You don't have to attend, but I just want to make sure you knew what that's up that we would be meeting with them. December 8th, Region 7 will be holding their legislative listening session. It will be virtual. I need to forward you the link. We have already set up the link for that Zoom session. It'll be 6:30 that evening. I'll forward that to you. I'll try to remember to do it in the next day or so you have that available and can get that on your calendar, but I want to make sure that you know about that. Again, December 8th at 6:30. I need 2 of you, if you're available on Wednesday, December 1st. That's our monthly meeting with the two Board of Supervisors members and Chris and Finance at the County Admin Building at 1 o'clock. So don't need to know now unless you want to tell me now, but I will need two of you to be available if possible.
Should be good.
I got it on my calendar unless somebody else wants to attend. Mark, Phil.
You're ready.
Okay. 1 o'clock, Dr. Harley.
1 o'clock on December 1st, and I'll verify that to make sure that they'll be available, but I just want to make sure I've got two of you. Again, so you know, we will be holding a pre-construction meeting at Nares Elementary Middle School next Tuesday, I believe it is, or next Monday, the 29th. Yes, the 29th is next Monday at 1 o'clock. Last board meeting, you all approved me signing off on the contract, but I assume we probably just to officially, we probably need to approve who the contract is with, because I don't believe we approved that last time.
That's right.
So I need to ask the board at this time to approve Southern Air for the project in Arizona Middle School for replacing the HVAC equipment throughout the building. We did approve. I thought they told me what I could sign, but I didn't know if they approved it, but I wanted to make sure. I want to make sure and cover.
I'll make a motion.
And then we received two proposals, one from Southern Air and one from Waco.
I'll second.
I just wanted to make sure and cover it.
They're saying they're sorry with that kind of.
Yeah, question and second. Any discussion? So my only question, we just need to have been assured by the engineer that they reviewed the bid form.
They went through.
Numbers are in order.
They went through.
Recommend award based on their review.
They went through and reviewed it and provided us documentation back.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Let's see, couple other items, just need to make sure that you're comfortable with us moving forward with. We talked about it last year. We put it in the budget to look at a preventive maintenance for our cafeteria equipment. So I want to make sure you're comfortable with us moving forward with that. It's based on what was shared with us. The quote was for $65.50. 2 times a year, so a total of $13,100. And we budgeted 16,000. So I wanted to make sure you're comfortable with me moving forward, because they'd like to try to get that scheduled and get on the schedule to do that 2 times a year.
Yeah, that's a budget line item. So.
But I just wanted to make sure. I didn't want to do anything until.
Under budget's good, Dr. Arnold, yes, you
Keep on track.
bring all those you want to.
Okay. All right. Water softeners, we've talked about water softeners. We talked about those last year as well, when we put money in the budget for those. However, I don't anticipate that what we put in the budget is going to cover what is going to be recommended. But I don't know what the cost is going to be until we start working with an architect to be able to design what needs to be installed appropriately. What they're recommending is a water softener, not just necessarily for the cafeteria equipment, but if we're going to start looking at buildings and start upgrading our HVAC equipment, it makes sense to do a water softener that's for the whole building to help protect that equipment where the water's going through as well. So I would need to ask that, make sure that, to ask you to be able to work with ZMM architects who are familiar with our buildings and have done a lot of the renovation work to design a scope for the water softeners on 4 of our sites: Eastern, Macy, Giles High, and Nares High. Their proposed fee is $24,000 to do that. And that is, they will do bid documents, drawings, specifications. They'll provide bid assistance and administration of construction services.
So how does that impact their existing?
We have $100,000 budgeted for that. And I don't anticipate that might be half of what it's gonna cost.
So paying them will have to come out of,
Use carryover.
okay. What do we think that total?
I'm thinking it's gonna be, what we were told, probably about $80,000 a site.
Per site?
Can we use the carryover to pick that up?
We'll pick up the rest of it. As I said, we've got 100,000 budgeted, so if the other 140 so we could use carryover to cover that.
Have we run that by, I mean, sure it's absolutely necessary building wide if we're going through this improvement, the upgrades to the HVAC system?
That's-
With what they're planning to do.
That's what we talked about, that's what was spoken with them about upgrading.
Who's them? I'm sorry. It's ZMM or?
ZMM, I'm sorry, ZMM, that was part of the conversation, is that we're planning on doing that.
Can we run it by CTMA just to see if that's necessary, whole building wise? Because I thought they were talking about a closed loop system or something.
We can.
I just wanna make sure that if we can get, if there's a way we can get by with just doing cafeterias, because it may not be necessary to what, CTMA's proposed, not saying we're going with them, but, if we're gonna take it, this is a bigger capital project on the HVAC, I just wanna make sure we're not doing something that may not be necessary.
And just so our folks here get a shot at that, see if John Ross thinks that we should, I know he's not the expert, but he has had a lot of involvement with their units. He probably would defer to CMTA and HVAC experts, but I wouldn't think running it by him would be a bad idea. Last thing we want to do is put them on everything, and then John tells the board, the supervisors, well, I could have told them they shouldn't have done that. I don't like being in that position, so let's give him the courtesy of just.
I'll speak with him as well.
And that's soft water.
I'll speak with him as well before we do anything, and I'll report back to you and let you know.
Okay.
I'll check with him, and then I'll check with,
If they did that closed system, you wouldn't need it.
That's what, I thought I heard that because they were talking about Nares Elementary's water used to go down because it's blowing out all that water. And somebody said something, and I thought I heard someone say that there was gonna be a closed loop system, or, I may be dreaming that, but I just.
but talking to, then it won't do any good to talk to CMTA about Nares Elementary. We'll need to talk to,
Yeah.
I'll need to talk to TNL. I'll need to talk to TNL about Nares Elementary.
That's right.
Okay, I'll talk to them before we move forward, and I'll share with you what we find out. Just so you know as well, we are working on that, the retention and recruitment bus driver grant through the state. We will have something to be able to submit by the December 3rd, next Friday deadline. So we're talking about that the last week since it's come out.
Our population qualifies us for 50,000.
Based on that, it's 50,000.
Okay. And that's just as information, meetings, Dr. Armstrong and I attended, we attended several legislative meetings, and we try to boil down some of our biggest concerns. Clearly, teacher pay was one of the top priority as far as who we want VSBA legislation, people to lean on those topics. But the bus driver situation, this grant, as far as I can tell, it's 1 year right now.
It's that amount of money that can be used during the 21-22 and 22-23 school year.
So again, with all the other challenges we have, that 1 year money's great. But we get bus drivers on board and have a good group, and then have to go back and say, well, they didn't give us the money this year. Well, you drive for less this year. That's what so we were sure that they advocated for that too, and I won't be able to talk correctly about the other big items. They were talking about internal training of the special education folks, Dr. Arbogast, but I'll mess that one up if I try to explain. People from Radford, when we were sitting in that advocation meeting, there were some schools that were doing that
Because
internally.
yeah, Montgomery County has a program that they've implemented that they're trying to train their own teachers, basically, because they have the capacity and realize where the workforce, there's not many people in the education programs. And what was mentioned was there were, I think, and I quoted it yesterday, and I probably will quote it wrong again today, but I think what was shared was that there were 5 special ed teachers in the program at that college that person works for. And 5 is not going to cover the needs of school divisions. So it's a problem that everybody is facing and trying to figure out a way to resolve it. But once we get this recruitment, once we get it finalized, before to submit, I'll shoot it to you so you have it, can see what we submit. We have talked about this before. I forget how long ago we talked about it. We talked about it a couple months ago. The picnic outdoor classroom shelter at Giles High School, based on comments, wanted it a little bit bigger. For a 24 by 60 picnic shelter outdoor classroom with a concrete slab, the total would be $15,523.
Sounds pretty good, considering.
I like to just put tents out there.
I'd say if you do it.
Hey, we could have had that a long time ago, brother. Montgomery County decided to do it. Just saying.
You can get a 24 by 60 for $15,000, you better be getting them to do it starting tomorrow.
Well, that's what, so I'm,
A lot of sweat equity out of the,
that's our guys doing it.
say, we need to build those.
As long as you're all right, I'm gonna go ahead and tell them to move on with it.
You'll never build that square footage for that cheap. So,
Go forth before lumber prices go back up.
Also, they need to do some work at the concession stand, lower concession stand at Narrows High School, with the roof at the lower concession stand. It's gonna be about I had that here too. It's gonna be about $3,000, $3,780 to replace the roof there, put tin on the roof. So need to do that, and I'm gonna tell them to move on with that too, unless you tell me otherwise. And I think we heard at the budget hearing there about the need to upgrade some of those facilities within those concession bathrooms at both sites. So we need to, Bobby's getting some prices on some stuff so if we have an idea of what that would cost.
Where are they putting the, I know the answer to that probably, but where are they putting the 24 by 60?
By the tennis court. Yeah, that way.
We don't have any utilities in that field.
Not that I'm
I think I talked to Ms. August, but the only thing I wanna make sure is we have ADA accessibility, and she's right on the backside of that.
You have to go around and come back in.
It's flat access, so. I mean, do we need to keep a certain distance from the tennis courts? I mean, I wanna make sure that from a,
I've not seen a plan. I don't know how far off the tennis courts you're talking.
It's pretty, I mean, it's probably that far, maybe a little further.
Yeah, I don't know how far close they were to it.
so what if we're all state 10 years in a row and they wanna put bleachers right there?
You're gonna have a structure there that you're not gonna put bleachers on them, you got to put the bleachers beside it.
I think 6 picnic tables. There you go.
And plus, I know you wouldn't, you'd have to put bleachers that would be able to be moved, because that area is, you're taking away parking for the athletic events too.
I'm just thinking ahead. Is there anything else we would wanna do, anything with that field?
Is there any,
Shelley, that we would be sorry we put that there at this time?
would that be a problem with what they're trying to do with the repairing the tennis courts?
Shouldn't, I wouldn't think.
I just want to make,
But they can't run on top of that and crack the concrete, that's a big thing.
Okay,
I wouldn't think so, because access to the tennis courts on the other side, on above beside the road, and if they need to, they'll have to, that's where they would bring the material in.
okay.
And the last item that I have is just to make you aware, I think we've talked to you about this, you know, we've got a return to learn plan based on the fact that we receive ESSER money, and because of receiving the ESSER money, we have to reevaluate the return to learn plan and update that every 6 months. So every 6 months between that, beginning of this school year and September of 2023, we're gonna have to review the plan to see if there's any changes that need to be made. That was posted on our website a couple weeks ago. It's been out there for, I think, 3 weeks, for anybody to provide any public comments back. And comments that we've heard from internal, or they would like to remove the temperature checks that are being conducted on a daily basis, because the students should be having a wellness check before they come to school anyway, so the temperature checks are really basically a double dip and don't need to be done. So that's gonna be removed, unless you all wanna see it there otherwise. And we'll start that probably December 1st when we come back from break and to get it posted. I think that's all I've got. Any dates we need?
It's the next board meeting,
Next board meeting?
December 16th.
25th.
Yeah, December 16th.
I'll be in Hawaii, but y'all can go ahead without me.
We're gonna call in.
I won't be here.
You're not?
So 9th probably is,
That's probably too soon. You won't have hardly anything on the,
March 15th. When you leave?
I'm leaving on the 12th, but
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys can go without me. Not changing my plans, sorry.
21st?
15th doesn't work.
Yeah, you really do it
20,
without me.
Mr. Steele, if you go past the 17th, you'll,
Do it, y'all, you'll be fine, I'll be fine.
Look out for you.
I mean, we're here tonight, I mean,
The
right.
so the 15th is, just doesn't work for you.
Yeah, that's fine, do it. I'll do it.
Can we tell them?
did you say the 15th?
15th works for me.
15th, 15 works.
You're leaving on Sunday the 12th, so you,
15th.
Yeah, I'm leaving that way.
December 15th, 4:30.
We'll make arrangements for you to call in.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll do that. I'll do that from the beach.
And And a reminder, the next 2-hour early release is December 8th. Thank you.
So I got two questions. I don't know if I want to address them at all in this meeting, but one, based on a couple of comments and questions I'm getting relentlessly from my end of the county, when and what data are we using to determine if we're gonna go back to phase 1 at all? And it's staff recommendation, but just as soon tell the people who ask me relentlessly what our thoughts are, so I don't keep giving them. I'm not sure.
I'm getting hammered.
So I don't know if you feel like you've got data to support one way or another, Dr. Arbogast, based on the numbers you had planned on using to justify phase 1 or phase 2, but when will we be able to at least give some kind of
I don't know that we're, I mean, I'll try to answer it the best as I can. I don't know that we're ready to make that recommendation to remove masks at this point in time, because we've heard from conversations that we've had with the health department on some of our weekly calls that they're concerned that we're not masking during athletic events inside currently.
and outbreaks from that have been,
And I'm just telling you what we're hearing.
well, the numbers should drive
Right.
decisions, not
So-
opinions.
Right.
And that ought to tell them right there, you're not having no outbreaks at a game that's inside, that, people just don't use no goddamn common sense.
I just need, the board members, we've gotta have a data-driven answer. People in the community, they're not gonna like, some people are gonna like it, some aren't, but if we can say that, I mean, are we using that
I think at some point,
data spreadsheet that the health department provided that shows when we're in yellow, red, and green?
from the last time I looked, we're still in red, but I think,
They're under a health mandate.
and we're still under the, we still have to follow CDC guidelines. Well, that's, I mean, and those, I mean, or VDH guidelines. Do I anticipate that something will change, in January? That's possible.
With the new governor.
But I don't know what that is and what that looks like. I have no idea.
They have a K-12. They have VPH, K-12 indoor mask policy.
Yeah, and that's what,
It's not a Jobs County.
yeah, it's,
So the answer to the community is we're still under a mandate.
we're still following the mandates, yeah. Now I know that there are some localities that are talking and trying to see if things are, loosened in January, if there is some sort of phased approach that could be taken.
Never learned so much.
Okay, I think that's enough to tell, I mean, the community spoke their mind when they voted North Mount. So they'll expect some change from this new leadership, we'll see what happens. The other thing that I wanted to bring to the board's consideration, I know that we had set aside some days to have teachers catch up on planning. And this is maybe a question for Ms. Mustang more than anybody, but just in some visits with principals and seeing teachers out and about, and I think based on some of the stuff that Brittany presented today, I mean, do we need to consider more time when we can do stuff like that? Is there more planning period needed? I know we were gonna do these first couple and see if that relieved any pressure at all, but that needs to come from Lisa, you and Dr. Arbogast, if we think we're reaching a pressure point, boiling point level. I've had some feedback. Doing my job as a board member to bring that up.
Oh, I know, I mean, our teachers are being worn out asking to cover classes. I can tell you that. I know that's what you're hearing.
we can't consider anything unless staff brings it to our attention, so. I'm sure when you and Lisa think that's something we need to consider, you'll bring it to us.
We need to wait, I mean, we're expecting a surge after Thanksgiving, of course, because of the family get-togethers, we'll see how, that's what the health department's waiting on.
Yeah, because you got the Thanksgiving holiday and you've got Christmas holiday. So we're gonna have to see how.
But I mean, you pull up the Virginia Department of Health, it's when people ask you,
We're
you
still
must
ready.
wear a mask indoors in a K-12 school. That's where that is.
Yeah.
And then, just to answer the question, I mean, we have schools, we had 20 people out at one school, we kept the doors open. And it is a strain on the teachers. I mean, anytime that you can find a way to give them some relief, until we can find a way to do, quarantine students, it would be, welcome and it is needed. I mean, they don't complain, and they're, but they're overworked, and they're a little stressed right now, so we'll see what happens after Thanksgiving break. But anytime we can find a way to give the teachers relief, we need to take advantage of it.
Well, I've heard that plea, and we're going to stay on top of that and keep listening and doing the best that we can. So, appreciate the ones here and all the ones listening, so. I may have already drifted into my comment here, so. I apologize.
That's all right.
We're used to
You
it by
drifted
now.
into mine.
So, do you have anything else?
No, sir, I was done.
Mr. Pennington, would you like to?
Let me start.
Yes, sir.
Well, as always, thank you for Carl Garrett, Miss Tang, Samantha, everybody, teachers, bus drivers, custodians, cafeteria workers, anybody that has anything to do taking care of our kids on a daily basis. We really thank you, appreciate everything that you do. We know it's a struggle, but just hang in there, and we're doing all we can to help you out. I'd like to thank Giles High School for their presentation tonight. They've done a very good job. It looks like you're doing a good job overall. I know it's harder on you, but just hang in there. I'd like to thank Aiden for coming tonight. And keep us updated on your sports teams. Congratulations on him. And Coach Kelly for having the track named after him. And just hope everybody has a good holiday, Thanksgiving, Turkey Day, and hope everybody stays safe.
Are you sure you don't want to talk to him?
I'm done. Taking over your program.
I'm just gonna kind of go on with him, everything he said, staff and all that, but, Brittany and your team, thank you. I mean, it really shows your passion and your commitment to the kids. And I know but I really appreciate that, and it's exciting to see that we're trying to take care of stuff before it starts, and our kids need it, so I do want to thank you, like I said, and I know it's a team effort, but it sounds like you're doing a pretty good job heading it up.
I do a good job with the people I work with, for the people I work with, they're phenomenal, and they're doing an awesome job.
Like I said, your passion, it really shows. And I miss the comments, but I did get those emails, and I do want to thank those students who reached out to us and sent us emails, and, I appreciate that, and I hear you, and I'm not gonna get in discussion about that, but I understand how these students feel. It's tough, and our teachers wearing masks all day long, I know it's gotta be tough, and I've looked at some of them little nasty things that them little ones wear, so, I just hang in there and just give us some time to get rid of them. But other than that, just hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving, and your turn, Mark.
Thank everybody in the building, all the sports teams, and Brittany, Shelley, for all y'all done. All our teachers, I know, going to different buildings here that I visited the past few days, been down for a little bit, so I hadn't been out and about. But I've never seen so many administrators, teachers worn down that I've had in all the years that I've been into this. You know, they're just worn, they're just frazzled out, they're just, you know, there's reasons for that. That they care so much and they work so hard, administrators and our teachers and everybody that's in the system. And I appreciate that for what they do, you know. It wouldn't work if they didn't care. Thank you guys for what you do. I got to sit in the car and hear Rusty Kelly's presentation up there. That was great. I got the call on that Sunday. He was still tickled to death. And he wanted to thank everybody here. I took full credit for everything.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, man, I did. Signed everything. I wrote the speech. No, he was tickled to death and shocked, surprised. But I guarantee, and I told him, I said that if they didn't want to be surprised, you would have had 1,000 people out there writing. You know, there would have been so many people show up. You know. But he wanted to thank everybody on the board, everybody here that's in this, you know, it's a special night. But I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. Thank you to all the board members and everybody here. So that's all I have.
All right, well, thank you guys for bringing that, August and Brittany, to us. Great presentation and a great program. I also want to thank you guys and the whole staff there, Dr. Arbogast and Ms. Mustang, for handling that unfortunate situation we had there. I think that was handled very well, and it was stressful, but I haven't heard a lot of complaints or anything. I think it was just from an outsider's view. I think you guys did a great job with that. Thanks to our law enforcement community for helping with that. If that doesn't demonstrate the need for school resource officers and cooperation between law enforcement and school systems, I don't know what does. Congratulations, Coach Kelly, on the track. Great honor, great coach, great educator. Glad he's got that. I want to congratulate Kelly Lowe again. Dr. Arbogast mentioned that, but 100 wins there at Nares High School. Doing a great job and influenced a lot of kids and enjoyed being a part of that. Do want to again, Mr. Sano at Nares High School, again, the theater program is really shining well there. Regional championship and of course all the other sports teams, but at both schools, doing a great job. Thanks for everybody at every school. Aiden, thanks for stopping by. You know, it's not too late to rethink that profession. Truck driving school sounded like a good choice some days.
I'll serve chicken.
Serving chicken to Bojangles may pay better some days too. But again, thank everybody for that. Have a happy Thanksgiving and see you in December.
I mentioned the two things I wanted to bring to everybody's attention, but I'll just finish up with the budget that's coming forward. We have a lot of money that we've got to figure out how to spend that is one-time money. And while I say that because we've got teachers down on the vine, and we got bus drivers that we can't figure out how to get better pay, we got TAs, substitutes. The reoccurring expenses are never ending. So when you all hear about us approving things like pavilions and roof replacement on concession stands, I need you to understand that that's not money that we can put. We need a bigger hit than that. And we're on our eyes on the ball. We're not forgetting that. But sometimes when you hear these meetings and we're spending money on things, there's a tendency for everybody to say, well, that would be a good bonus or something. We're not forgetting that. we just have to try to do some housekeeping with this one-time money that we normally would never have. So you're first and foremost on our list as far as the salaries go. Dr. Arbogast is gonna be setting up that committee to ramp back up. And
Hope to schedule that in January.
Katie, we talked about that. We need to have representation on that and the insurance stuff. You all need to have say on how that stuff works and understand, and we need to get the board of supervisors re-engaged on this pipeline money if it's gonna come, and we need to make sure we get our cut of that pie to get caught up. So, thanks to everybody that spent time putting together requests for the budget, and from the bus drivers to all the elementary and high school representatives. They probably didn't ask for near enough, but they always find a way to do with what they've got. So we'll continue to try to be the advocates that you deserve to have. And so we appreciate having the opportunity to be in that position. And I think that's, Mark's feeling better and back.
Thank y'all.
We're really handicapped and flopping around, not really getting much done, and he was not here, so all is well again. Can I get your motion?
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor? We're adjourned.